Hello friends and welcome, welcome, welcome. CJoy Yoga online studio and wellness channel. And today we are going to move into the sacrum. So since the beginning of the year, we started at the feet, the foundation, we moved up through the knees and kind of our upper legs. And we're going to bring that up into the next platform, I call it, of the body. And work in the sacrum, which obviously connects both down below and also up to the low back and above. So we have done a decent amount of work here over the past few months, because the main thing I hear from the majority of folks is lots of things going on in their hips and their low backs. So we're just going to kind of continue in that realm. But really, one of the other things that I want to bring in and that we've worked with before is this idea of being like water and letting things be really fluid. In Ayurveda and yoga, this sacrum pelvis area is the area, the element, right, of water. So we're gonna start seated or in an upright position. I'm obviously kneeling. This isn't right for everybody's knees, but it's better for my hips, so this is where I live. So I want you to listen to your body and find a position, whether it's on a chair or whatever, where you can sit up with a long spine. Meet me there. And close the eyes. And I don't want to be here for real long. I do want to get us moving since this is the shorter version. However, I find that this is a really good way to come into contact with that idea of fluidity. And that is, we're sitting up nice and tall, still like we would on any other practice, any other day, softening the muscles that we do not need. Take a moment to feel the grounding, right? The earth underneath you, whatever you have in contact with the earth, really feel it grounding down. And if you like that idea of roots growing down or light shining down, cables connecting you, right? Go ahead and do that. So we always want to keep that root connection, even when we start to work with the elements above. So keep that. But now I want you to bring your awareness above the perineum and into the sacrum and the pelvic area. If you don't know, the sacrum is a triangular shaped bone at the back of your pelvis. So anytime I say sacrum, that's where I'm talking about. So just a little in front of that sacrum bone, that triangular bone, bring your awareness there. And so perineum down, it's grounded, it's the earth element, right? And now we start to think of the element of water. So one of the visuals that helps me is I like to imagine that I am sea kelp. And I don't know if you've ever had the honor of seeing kelp forest. I haven't. I'm not a diver. I haven't live in person. But I have on many, many shows, including My Octopus Teacher, which you should totally watch if you haven't, on Netflix. No, they don't pay me anything. But I want you to imagine, if you will, that you were kelp in a kelp forest. And if you have had the pleasure of seeing that, you know that the waves are constantly washing it all over, but it has this really beautiful grounded element that keeps it on the floor of the ocean, and yet everything above has this mobility, this fluidity to it. So even though we're not moving our body like kelp yet, I want you to start to get the internal feeling of that in our subtle body, our energetic body. And then with an inhale, go ahead and open the eyes. And let's keep that idea of being like kelp as we move. And we're going to move a lot with the breath today. So we're going to come on down to our backs. Again, I wanted that upright posture for that first bit, just so you could kind of think of that sea kelp, right? As you lie down on your back. Ooh, I got to move my mic pack. Sorry, give me a sec. Just laid right on it. So as you lay down on your back, right, you can pause for just a moment. Let's leave our feet on the ground, please, and the knees bent. And again, even though you feel that earth underneath you and you feel hopefully connected, grounded down to the earth, we're going to let the rest of the body above that have that fluidity. And it's going to start with windshield wipers. So let the feet walk out wide, the arms out wide. And then just start to, like sea kelp, let those legs just sway back and forth. I like to link mine up with the breath and make sure my breath is a really important part of every single practice that I do. I don't always have to do the slowest breath that ever lived, right? Depends on my practice and what I need to balance my body. So if you're feeling like you're really lethargic these days and your energy is really down to the earth, that kapha energy, you might go just a little quicker, right? And if you feel like you're agitated or you're very, up in the air and you need grounding, you might think of slowing that breath down. So that's one way you can think about the breath. There are many. If it helps you to close the eyes, and of course you can start to turn your head the opposite direction of the knees. And again, if you were sea kelp, what would you be moving like? You can even imagine that as you move, it's not you moving your body, but rather it's the ocean moving your body. And of course, if for any reason that causes you anxiety or you're afraid of water, what have you, don't use that. Don't worry about that part, right? But in our visualization, we have control over it. So it's super safe water. And then the next time you end up over to the right with the knees, you're going to leave them over there. And then it's another idea of moving softly with the breath, but I want you to think of that left knee moving forward, not necessarily down, but forward, and just pulse back and forth a couple of times with that, and just let that left hip, it slightly picks up as you reach the knee forward, and just pulse a couple of times with that. Any extra opening in that left side body. And the knees will come all the way up, and then the knees are going to go over to the left. Head can totally turn to the right. And again, now we're going to manipulate the right knee. And all I mean by that is your right knee slides a little forward and to the left, and that right hip is going to come in, so you're going to allow that. It's not a huge motion. Let it just be a nice wave of the sea that comes and just pushes that right hip a little over towards the left. Yeah? And then bring the knees back up, walk the feet back in, rolling bridges, arms down by the side, and inhale, push into your feet and start to roll up. If it's okay to bring your arms overhead on the first try, go ahead, you don't have to. And then exhale, rolling back down, bringing the arms back down by the side. And be a little more loosey-goosey. Inhale, instead of really straight arms, maybe again, you think of yourself as being like seaweed, and rolling back down and bringing those arms back down. So just make it a little more fluid in that way. One more time, we come up. We're going to leave our arms overhead this time. Go ahead and turn the palms towards each other. Take one more inhale, pushing your heels down and using your hamstrings to help lift the hips. And then roll down one vertebrae at a time. If it's okay, extend your legs all the way out, and then we're going to push through the right side and the left side. So what I mean by that is the right fingers reach further back as the right heel reaches further down, and we lengthen. We might go into a little C curve, back to center, and then do that on the left side. So just page back and forth with your heel and your fingers of the same side reaching away from one another. And if you want to get a little bigger with the motion, you might even bring the right elbow and knee towards each other as you stretch the left side. And I'm doing that if that doesn't make sense. Again, as I reach my right side, I might slide my left heel and elbow towards each other. If you're on a sticky mat without a blanket, this might not be too accessible. And do that again where you're reaching your right fingertips further and the left knee and elbow might come in. And one more time on the other side. And then come back towards your center, bring those arms down by the side. And let's go ahead, and I'd like to do a little bit of core work. Think core light, although I'm never too hardcore, right? I don't believe in like crazy in the core. I don't think that's effective at all. People just keep using the same muscles that are already too strong and too tight usually. So from there, we're going to bring our legs up in a tabletop position. We're going to bring our hands behind our head. And we're going to do cross body, but don't be super foot, how I normally teach with it, right? For today's purpose, we're going to pull that low belly down just a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring the right elbow and the left knee towards each other. And the right leg can straighten out a little bit. And then go the other way. So maybe close your eyes. And again, instead of it just being like, oh, I got to do core, I've got to be precise, I've got to be quick, or whatever constructs you have around that. Can you imagine, if you will, that the ocean was somehow pulling the right elbow towards the left knee and then vice versa, right? That the ocean was pushing your left elbow towards your right knee, and let that be a little more fluid and maybe just a little more what I think of as loosey-goosey than that super alignment-based stuff I often do. And let's go ahead and we'll do one more set. We started with right elbow towards the left side, so we'll end by going left elbow over towards the right side. And we'll come back to center, and before we come up, let's hug those knees in for just a little bit, pardon me, and maybe rock a little from side to side. Getting bigger with the motion, tee the arms out, but let the knees continue to rock. And don't come right down to the ground. Get a little progressive with it. Start with just a little bigger than when your arms were on it. And then slowly but surely the knees start to move maybe a little closer to the earth. Maybe they never do that for you. Again, imagine the ocean pushing your legs in one direction, if that's helpful. And then the ocean, the wave, pushes them the other way. So almost like waves of the ocean today, moving our little sea kelp body. If you don't like the imagery of ocean or sea kelp, you're probably not going to like this class very much. Maybe the head turns the opposite direction. And then I'm going to throw you for a loop. We're going to do something we don't always do. You're going to let your knees move over to the right, and now slide them down towards the bottom of your mat. The feet can touch the ground, they don't have to, and then over to the left. So now we're moving in a circle. Now you can make this smaller if this feels like too much on your low back, your sacrum, your core, whatever that might be. But if it's okay, or not if it's okay, whatever size is okay. That's a better way to say that. I want you to go ahead and make that size circle. And you might play with it. They do different things. If I do a smaller circle, it gets a totally different part of my sacrum, right? And then go the other direction. And again, just kind of find what part of your sacrum wants attention. If it feels safe when you do the bigger circle, I'm not saying you have to, right? But usually gets a wider girth, a wider circle on your low back and sacrum. And then when I make that smaller, say more the size of a grapefruit, I get a different part. It kind of goes in a little bit and makes a tighter circle. So what feels like it would like that palpation against the floor? And then we're going to grab the backs of the knees and we're going to rock up, but we're going to try and do that nice and progressively and slowly. We're not in a hurry. If this hurts your spinal column or your tailbone for any reason, please don't do it. And then the next time you come up, we're going to pause for just a moment, if it's okay. Feet can totally be on the ground. Try to find your long spine, moving the knees in, all the usual suspects. Maybe the shins lift. And then from there, we're going to try to interlace our hands behind our head or keep our hands on our body. I think I might keep my hands on my body today. And we're going to let our right shoulder and our left knee move in. Right leg can extend a little bit, and let your right knee and your left shoulder. So similar to what we just did, but now we're on our buttocks bones and we have a different relationship to gravity, right? So your spine is going to round a little bit when you do this, and that's totally okay. I'm turning my head towards the direction my shoulder is going. And then at some point in time, maybe turn your head the opposite way of the shoulders going and just see what that does and how that changes your experience. It plays with your mind an awful lot, I'll tell you that. Coming back to center, let's cross our right shin in front of our left. You can extend a leg or support with a block if that's necessary for your knees or your hips. Inhale and get really long, and go ahead and start to fold over. And in our sea kelp way, we're just going to sway the body. Those waves are just going to push our shoulders back and forth from right to left. Let the neck be pretty, footloose and fancy free. You don't have to see me once you see what's going on, right? So you concentrate on your own practice now. And inhale, come up, and if it's okay, maybe you fold in just a little more. Now that we've been there, forearms can come down, palms down, elbows bent. And take a breath, and then come on up, roll up. Put your other shin, I think your left, but I don't know that I called it for sure. Support, extend, whatever you need to do. Get tall, you could do this in a chair. Start to fold over any amount, and I would stay a little higher than your edge, your farthest edge, right? And then again, be like a piece of sea kelp. In the upper body, our lower body is grounded down into the ocean floor, and everything from the perineum down is grounded. Everything above that is like sea kelp today. You could walk your hands with you if you want to. You don't have to, right? Whatever works. And then inhale, back and center. Inhale, get long, and exhale, maybe folding over just that extra little bit. And pause, take a breath. Inhale, reach the chest forward and come on up. Hands and knees, please. If you needed to pad the knees or if you needed to sit on your buttocks to do this because your knees give you issues, totally acceptable. Inhale, chest forward, shoulder blades down the back. So think cat-cow, that's where we're headed. Exhale, round up. And let's do 2 more of our traditional cat-cows, the ones we know pretty darn good. They're in near every yoga class, right? And if you're brand new to yoga, welcome. You will probably do these a lot. I personally, on a personal level, I do these pretty much every single day of my life in some capacity, whether I'm seated or standing or traveling and then come back to neutral. Now I want you to imagine that your tailbone, right? If I were to take the, say a paintbrush off the end of your tailbone and you were to try to paint a circle on the canvas behind you. So very, very fluid through your sacrum right now and your hips. And yes, your hips get to move with this. Your upper body doesn't have to be rigid and stock still, but really try to base the movement, to initiate the movement from a little further back, right? More by the tailbone. Other direction. And then we're going to go to the middle ribs. So now the hips and the shoulders stay fairly still, and we start to circle our ribs down to the right, up to the left, and try to isolate it as much as you can, but in a fluid way through that middle rib cage. The head just kind of goes on the journey wherever it's comfortable going. Allow that. Don't fight it. Move the other direction, down to the left, up and to the right. And again, my shoulders and my hips are going to be affected by it, but I'm not initiating from those places. They're just along for the journey. Now, I want you to turn your hands in, your fingers in towards each other. It's kind of an odd thing. And bend the elbows, please. Now we're going to try and go a little more in our upper back. And this is pretty free form. You know, you can do the circling action, bending the elbows and moving them a little towards straight, if that's feeling good, or whatever motion feels good. I personally like to kind of move my shoulders all around. I always think of it as being kind of animalistic. And, you know, bend the elbows as much as you want to, get down, really close your eyes. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing or thinks or whatever. I know some people feel awkward with this kind of movement, but how can you best, if you're going one circling direction, go the other way. If you're playing, just play, right? How can you best get into what I like to think of as your nooks and crannies? And now come back to center. Now we're going to move the hands just a little further forward and drop back into a child's pose. Hips could stay higher. And now moving forward, into cow. Inhale, reach the chest forward. I screw up cat-cow every single time. Round the spine and push back to child's pose. And inhale, reach the chest forward. Not my child's pose, your child's pose, the one in your body, yeah? Exhale, round the spine and move into your child's pose. Let's do one more of those. Inhale and reach the chest forward. Exhale, rounding back and down, and then coming back to center. Feel free to use blocks to step your right foot forward into a lunge. See, I'm keeping the blanket, for the cushion, and my sweater because it's still a little chilly this morning here in the Pacific Northwest as the house heats up. Inhale, reach that chest a little forward, almost like you were moving into cow, right? And get really, really long through the spine. Now we're going to move back and forth between coming forward towards the lunge, hips forward, and then we're going to start to move the hips back, and blocks may move back with us. Moving a little forward. Again, if you have any kind of knee issues, pad the knees if they still aren't working for you. You could sit in a chair and work one leg out towards straight, working towards a hamstring stretch, folding over it. We're working back and forth between the psoas stretch in the left hip and the hamstring in the right, yeah? Now the next time you're back, you're gonna pause. This time maybe flex the foot, bring the body up a little bit, and moving down and in. And because it's seaweed day, if it feels nice to move a little bit and sway a little bit, how does it change the experience, right? And then if you find a spot that's like, oh yeah, sit with it. Maybe stay with it for a breath. Maybe you keep moving, what do I know? And then as we move forward, put both blocks inside the right foot. Right foot walks a little wide to the right, and now circle your hippies. And then whatever direction you were going, go the other way. And again, if it helps you to think of the ocean pushing you, moving your body today, if that makes you a little less rigid with the muscles, I'm such a rigid mover. Go ahead and sweep the right leg back. And we're going to bring that left leg forward between the blocks initially, right? And moving forward in towards the lunge, and just pause for a moment, finding that long spine and just saying, hello, right hip flexor, right? And then we'll move back and forth. So now with an exhale, I'm going to start to move back a little bit. Foot can come up, it can fly, whatever you need. Inhale, the ocean wave pushes us, the hips forward. And then the ocean waves pushes our hips back. I could say it that way today. And instead of being so exacting, what happens if you just let the movement move you, as it were? I'm a control freak. I like to call myself a recovering control freak. So I really have to watch that tendency. And then or I choose to. And then flexing the foot and lengthening the leg. Knee can totally be bent. The foot doesn't have to be all the way flexed. What's right for you? And if it feels good to sway a little bit with that ocean quality, please do. And then if you find an area that's like, oh, yes, please, you might pause for a breath there. And then we're going to come forward to the lunge again, walking our left foot out to the left, both hands inside on blocks or ground. And then move into the lunge and then start to circle the hips and just let those hips, big or little, I don't know what's right for your hips. I'm not inside your body. I don't know that. I try to do my best and go the other way in guiding you into your body, but ultimately you are always and will always be your own best guru, right? Not that I'm a guru, I don't mean that. And come back, nowhere near, and step that foot back. We are gonna move back into a series with downward dog. So if you had a blanket down, please feel free to move that blanket off to the side. Remove your socks, whatever you need to do. I'm gonna try and get away with my socks for a little longer. We'll see how it goes. Inhale, reach the chest forward. And exhale, curl the toes under. And exhale, push back to downward dog. And bring the knees down. Inhale, reach the chest forward. You could choose to keep your blanket there, right under your knees. Exhale, back to child's pose. Inhale into cow. Exhale, back, downward dog. If you are on a different breath length than I am, totally fine. Inhale into cow. And exhale back to child's pose. Let's do one more, and this time, not one more, we're gonna do half of one, and we're gonna stay in our downward dog, right? And in your downward dog, you're gonna pause right there, maybe pedaling one leg and then the other. You keep doing that. Pardon me, but I left my noisemaker on my phone, and I really don't wanna hear it today while we're moving, so I apologize for that. And then from there, come back to your neutral. Let's walk our hands back to our feet. Inhale, reaching the chest forward. And exhale, let that seaweed bring you back down the seaweed, the ocean. You are the seaweed. Inhale, reach the chest forward. Be the seaweed, the kelp. Exhale, fold back in. And inhale, arms out to the side or hands on hips. Inhale, come all the way up. And exhale, arms down by the side. From where you are on your mat, moving in. Inhale, reaching the arms out and up. And exhale, folding in, maybe bending those knees, particularly with today's practice. Inhale, reaching the chest forward. Exhale, folding back in. Inhale, reaching the arms out and up. And exhale, arms down by the side. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, arms out and up. Exhale, folding in. Inhale, chest forward. Exhale, folding in. Inhale, reach those arms out and up, coming all the way up to standing. And exhale those arms down by the side. Now we're actually going to do just one more move in today's practice. It's just going to be nice and light, the shorter version, right? But just so you see it before you go down into it, we'll interlace behind. You can stay up. We might start to fold in. Your knuckles might stay down or they might lift up a little bit. And then this time, right, I'm going to keep my knees bent and I might just reach or slide my knuckles from side to side and get that little bit of motion that way. Try to keep your neck soft. I'm not doing a very good job of that example. We'll reach the knuckles back to come back up and reach the arms back down. So anywhere on your mat, wherever that is, interlace your hands behind you. Reach the knuckles down and back. Hi, Georgie. And start to maybe fold in. And as you fold in and soften in, maybe it's that your hands stay on your low back the whole time, but let the shoulders lift up. Maybe the knuckles reach up, but either version, let the shoulders lift up a little bit so you get the chest opening. Please keep the knees bent. And if it's okay, maybe you bend the right knee a little bit and the knuckles move to the right. And then coming back to center. And then go ahead and the left knee might bend a little extra as your knuckles slide towards the left. Come back to center, and only if that feels good, go ahead and do that again a couple of times, maybe 2 more times on each side. You could stay directly in center and not add that swaying action. That's totally fine. And then reach the knuckles back when you're ready to bring yourself all the way up. Reach the arms down by the side. Stand up nice and tall. Close or mostly close the eyes. And before I try to feed you anything, right? Meaning I don't want you to hear me say, oh, this, and yeah, that's how I feel, that is it. I would love for you to just scan through your body, and when you work in this way, when you work with the breath, moving on the breath with that quality of just fluidity and flowing, what does that feel like? And please don't just say good or bad. Be more precise, use your words, as my mom would probably have said to me in my toddler years. Bring your hands together in front of your chest, our chest, one chest, why not? I do believe we are all one. Inhale, get nice and tall. Exhale, bow the head in, pause for just a moment, and just notice. Maybe take the moment to be grateful for something. And bring the arms down, inhale up, open the eyes. And 2 more things if I may. You can always press pause or stop. The very first time that we do something, if it's your first time working in this way, sometimes there's resistance just because it's different, and literally the neurons have different patterns they have to fire, right? And so there's this resistance, and it's literally physiological, but might also be like a mental thing for you. I'm not saying you have to do it again, but you might try it again. And then just a reminder that yoga is about balance. So to work in a super controlled, refined way and not that be exactly what you do all the time, if you're a bit of a recovering control freak like me, maybe it's good every once in a while to bust out of that and to try something else. If you're all down, right, all way down, it might be good to have something where you're a little bit more fluid. If, there are just different reasons. So I try to bring all these different tools to you so you can start to realize, like, this isn't necessarily the practice you do every single day. Nothing that I teach is something I don't believe that we should do every day. I think every day we should be like, what could I use that would make me feel more balanced? And then hopefully we do that as best we can. Namaste.